Short and sweet, to the point, and nearly lyrics credit given to Jason Eckes on that. The only one you didn't include was Ben is old. I mean, that was the only part. Otherwise, I think Eckes wrote basically all those lyrics.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
No, he didn't. I had those lyrics before Eckes ever wrote any of them.
Did you also have the one Ben is old or?
No, I didn't have that.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's so dumb. Eckes is older than me, so he should shut the hell up. What the hell does he know?
I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, Brad and I did that, a couple weeks back. And there it is, our new theme song. Finally there.
Yeah, I updated our photos too, and no Aaron Rodgers. So there you go.
That's good. That's good.
Rick, Giant Jones tonight again. Look at this one.
Yeah. Double IPA now.
Whoa, Cyclops.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's like a Cyclops orc.
That's right. This one's a 9.2. Also, let me give a quick apology to everybody. So I have changed my audio settings. I didn't realize, so I had to mute.
You were louder than crap after a while?
That's because it was auto-adjusting because I had to mute all the time because my kid's crazy. I was saying all this stuff. So now I'm going totally pro, but the thing is I can't tell if we're out of balance or not. So you just have to let me know in the chat. If we're like way out of whack sound-wise, shoot me something in the chat in the comments, and I can make adjustments. But otherwise, we'll start with this and go with this. But that was our new song. Here it is again for you. We'll just play the song and then watch Ben enjoy his work here. I got the song. Here it is.
Well, I got the song.
Well, I know you got the song.
Welcome to the P.O.O. Show, hosted by Hafeman Bros. We're talking green and gold, and shouting, "Go Pack, go!"
All right, just give you that one more time. Okay.
The thing that took the longest was all the Go Pack goes. Brad's like, we got to do like 30.
You got to layer it so much.
Yeah, so I was going like, Go Pack, go. One time I was like, Go Pack, go. And I was doing all Go Pack, go. And then one time I was like, Go Pack, go. And then Brad just did like normal ones. I was doing a bunch of weird ones.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It doesn't sound like we recorded 30 of them. It just sounds like Brad, who did like 2. But it's it was both of us. Fine. I did about 12 and he did about 18. I mean, and
I'm Rick and I are not offended at all that you didn't invite us to be part of it. But I mean, whatever. We could have added our voices to the Go Pack Go part.
You were driving home. And Rick had to get back to his family.
I could have submitted my audio. I could have, you know what I mean? Like I could have done a good nice Go Pack Go and sent it to him. I'm just saying, could have included the rest of us. Anyway, it's fine. Mom likes it. Dad says good evening, boys, and William G's here. Okay, let's get into this. Here it is. Well, first of all, should we talk about Andy Herman? First of all, let's find out how Rick's doing. I'm sorry, Rick. You're the good guest tonight.
Yeah, what the heck? How's Rick doing?
Rick, how you doing? I forgot to ask you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Sorry I couldn't join you last week, but just want to give a shout out if shout outs are still a thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
My kid last week, I was down at Mall of America for the Minnesota State esports high school tournament. So my kid and his Ultimate Smash Brothers team qualified for state, and the match that they were streamed on, he kicked some butt, looked pretty good. They got knocked out in the third round, but it was a pretty good showing given that it was 2 freshmen and a sophomore on the team. So that was my excuse for not being here live last week. It was a good show, but hey, now I'm back and now I'm on the stream too, for better or worse.
Yeah, for better. Looks like you need a haircut though, Rick. I mean,
I do. It's getting a little shaky.
I know.
I ain't got time for that though.
Yeah, I know.
It's cold here today. I need that insulation.
It is cold today. I don't know what happened. It was
Ben didn't even know what esports
yesterday.
were, so you had to explain to him what esports were.
Yeah, I didn't know what that is.
Yeah, now you know.
Why did they have that back when I was in school?
Exactly right. Man, you could have been in more
We could have had a
sports.
great team just with the 3 of us. Rick with his cheat codes. Me actually being a good player, and then you would be our, we'd have to carry you, Jace. But, between me and Rick and the cheat codes, we'd be good.
Well, I'd be like the team I'd be like the person that goes first, and then the other teams get overconfident because I see me go.
And then me.
You guys, then
Rick comes in with the cheat code at the end.
Yeah.
With the one eye at the very end.
Yeah, we could have been awesome. Oh, man.
Ballerina Toshinden or whatever. That's what we should have played.
There you go.
The one eye.
Oh, man. All right, so tonight, so this week, there are a couple things talked about. Jordan Love, AJ Dillon. Those are the 2 guys that I put in the title here that I want to focus on. I want to spend some time.
I got a topic too for later. It's
I
Christian
mean,
Watson. So we'll get into that a little while later.
Okay, then. But before we get to any of that, Rick brings us up. Rick,
Yeah.
you said, did you watch Andy Herman? You had sent me a text. Did you watch Andy Herman's Pack a Day podcast from today? I said no, and then I finally did here just before the show. I watched it. Why did you want me to watch it?
Well, we've talked a number of times about how you guys seem to be ahead of the curve. And,
Very
a few
true.
years ago, there was the suggestion I had of let's do the Call Out Kenny Clark episode. Andy Herman beats you to it by like 12 hours. Kenny Clark steps up the next week. Looks good. You guys are always a little bit ahead. I think, you might be right. Maybe some people are scouting you guys, getting some ideas for their own shows. Maybe it's coincidence. But I think people can go back in the archives and stand a pretty good shot of finding some commentary by you about how good the Packers would have been if they had kept Tramon Williams, how good they would have been if they had kept your close personal friend Micah Hyde, and one of my personal favorites, Charles Woodson. You guys have talked about that a lot, not just what they themselves would have brought to the team, but then the cascade or like the butterfly effect of if they had a defensive backfield like that, who else might they have drafted or who would they not have drafted all those successive drafts?
Kenny
So-
King,
Yeah, Corey wouldn't be as mad when
TJ
they
Watt
could have just
would be a
drafted TJ
Packer.
Watt instead. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. So that's what Andy was talking about on his Pack a Day podcast today, was essentially going through the what ifs if the Packers had hung on to especially those three guys, the domino effect that it would have had, and who knows what would have happened in last few years in terms of making the playoffs, advancing in the playoffs, having a more solid defense. But it was certainly something interesting to think about with the what ifs, but it was something you guys have talked about before, at least a handful of times over the last 3 seasons.
3 years. We talked about that when we started. I mean, mostly because Micah Hyde's Jason's favorite guy of all time, pretty much.
oh, and personal friends.
And personal friend,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah,
And
you and him.
confidant.
You guys go way back.
We do go
But-
way back.
Anyways, it's nothing new. I mean,
I don't know
we
why
know
you guys laugh at
know.
that. We met, we shook hands. He used my
I don't-
tools. Like, what do you guys want from me, man? What do you guys
Whoa,
want?
I
We had a
don't know
nice
about the
conversation. We had a nice.
I don't want to know about him
like,
using your tools.
No, like tools to construct something.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like
I
I had
know,
to
I'm
show
just-
him how to use it.
I know.
He's a nice guy back then, and like one thing that is pretty crazy, right? I didn't I don't put a lot of stock in PFF. I know everybody loves the PFF and da 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 da. Now PFF knows jack squat when they're grading offensive linemen. That's 100% true. We know that.
Josh Sitton is the highest rated passing guard in the history of PFF grades.
Thank you
Pass
for
protection
reinforcing
guard.
my point. Thank you so much. Anyway, the point is this. They maybe know something when they're grading defensive backs. I don't know. But like their grades on Micah Hyde were crazy after he left Green Bay. We haven't got a chance to actually play his spot, which is
And
safety.
Casey Hayward.
And Casey Hayward. But a guy like Micah Hyde who is like one of the most aware players you could have, has great ball skills. Like he showed, right, it was a punt returner. So why would you not take the guy that's an awesome punt returner, even if you don't know what the hell he is yet or you think this or that or whatever, the guy that's an awesome punt returner, how would you not think he wouldn't be an awesome free safety? Like, I don't
Because
get it.
he doesn't have enough speed for the Packers' threshold at free safety. That's why.
Yeah, except his intelligence and his awareness make up for the lack of speed.
I know.
Right? We showed it on here. That crazy interception he made in the playoffs a couple years ago. That was insane.
But
He should
here's-
have never got to that, but he did because he's my personal friend. He's awesome. Anyway, go ahead.
This is the thing I want to talk about. I mean, you want to watch Andy Herman's show? He talks about all the things we've already talked about 3 years ago. That's
Yeah,
great.
I know.
He's,
You're
he's 3
welcome,
years
Andy.
behind,
I'm
and that's
I'm
fine.
glad we get. That's okay.
But the thing I want to more focus on is this: what's the key point between all those guys? Tramon Williams, Micah Hyde, Casey Hayward. They were all either undersized, undrafted, too slow. There was always something about them that made them not obviously a super high pick. Like Casey Hayward was super short, right? But he was a second round pick or somewhere in there. But
He was small. I didn't realize
Right,
he was a
super
second round
small.
pick. He was like 5'9", maybe 170 pounds. Yeah.
right. But the key thing about all those guys is, as Mike McCarthy once said, Micah Hyde is just a football player. When they asked him questions about Micah Hyde, well, where's Micah Hyde going to play? Well, I was like, I don't care where Micah Hyde plays, as long as he's on the field, because he's a football player. That was one of the only things that Mike McCarthy ever said that actually made sense. So what I want to bring that into today's world with Brian Gutekunst, who does he bring back to us when we realize, hey, this guy's a football player? Rasul Douglas, Keyshawn Nixon, Rudy Ford. These are not guys who are highly touted, but they're just guys they're damn good football players in the secondary. And the Packers secondary is probably one of their strengths. Not at safety, obviously. But when it comes to guys picked up off the street, and why do we have to pick up these guys off the street? Because the draft picks have been horrendous, as Andy Herman goes through today. When it comes to Demarius Randall and Quentin Rollins and Clinton Puke and Savage and King and Josh Jackson and Josh Jones. I mean, you can name all these first, second round cornerback / safety picks over the last 8-9 years. They've all been terrible, and it started with the Clinton Dix pick. And when that happened, and they decided to move on from Casey Hayward and Micah Hyde, it just led to them using these dumb picks, high picks on guys, which they could have been used for other players who would have been more impactful if they would have just hung on to the players that were good.
Yeah. And
Rick that's one thing.
Rick mentioned that. Charles Woodson was the first one.
Right, and Charles Woodson, but I'm not totally opposed to Charles Woodson because
I get it.
Packers have a history of letting guys go. Like the same thing with Devontae, Aaron Rodgers. You let them go before they become crap, right? We don't want to. Mike Daniels. Mike Daniels was great. They said, see ya. Josh Sitton got traded away because we had a guy in the pipeline with what was his name? It was really cool. Totally forgot his name. Oh my God.
Lucas Patrick.
No, not Lucas Patrick. The other guard. Shoot. Well, I don't remember his name in a while later.
I don't know.
But
Lucas Patrick's the only name I remember. What do you got?
No. Aaron. Not Aaron. What's his name? All right, forget it. I forgot his name. Somebody's going to remember. William G's going to remember. Guard who took over for Josh Sitton. Who took over for Josh Sitton, played guard. He was the guy who he was the sole protector for Aaron Rodgers.
Lane Taylor, man.
Lane Taylor. Yeah. On the Jared Cook pass. Yeah.
Two
Lane
first
Taylor.
names.
I thought you were going after Aaron Taylor there for a bit when you were saying Aaron.
That's what I was thinking. That's probably why, because I was like, no, it's not Aaron. But I knew maybe it was Taylor. Okay. Anyways, what I'm saying is they move on when it's time, or maybe a little bit before, which is fine. But then they have a guy in the pipeline who can do the job for the most part, at least for Gutekunst. He's done a pretty good job at that for the most part.
Yeah.
This year is the first time where we have to do a whole retool on a lot of positions because they went all in with these veteran players for the last 3 years to try to do something. But what I will say is what Goody's doing that Ted Thompson didn't do is let's hang on to the guys who we know are good football players. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with A.J. Dillon, whose contract's up after this year. It's going to be interesting to see with Josiah DeGuara. I think Josiah DeGuara can be signed back pretty cheap. A.J. Dillon might not be able to be signed back that cheap. I don't know. Somebody may give him some money. And those are two key players that I think are important parts. They're just football players. Josiah DeGuara is one of my favorite players on a team. He just does everything well. Like, he's a solid, awesome guy. He's a Micah Hyde of the offense. And letting him go would be a huge mistake, even though they just drafted these two awesome tight ends, right? But that's not what Josiah DeGuara's job is. He's like the fullback, sneak attack, do cool stuff, pick up the blitz, get a crackback block over here, pull in motion and grab a guy on the outside, help out with wide receiver screen because wide receivers can't block, all that kind of stuff he does. He's awesome. He's probably the most underrated player on the team. But that's one thing I would say from watching this is I think Goody has figured it out, okay, hopefully. And even with this rebuilding type team that we have right now with these young players on offense, he still kept the football players that were on defense, the ones that we saw and we targeted last year and said, oh, yeah, Rudy Ford, Keyshawn Nixon, when these guys are in the game, they attack, they're aggressive, they make plays. Sometimes they miss. Sometimes they're in the wrong spot. But when they are in the right spot, they tackle and they have pass breakups and they do stuff like that. And they're like Micah Hyde. They're not as good as Micah Hyde, but they're there. They're close. They're something that is something that's needed on the team. And instead of putting your money in young guys and drafting young guys for potential, we're signing back these guys who we know can play and are part of the team now. So I like that.
I have to give Goody one. Sorry, Rick. One quick thing. I have to give Goody some credit. He traded away too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, I like him.
He didn't draft him. He didn't draft him.
I know that. Rick, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I'm curious to see if maybe they've learned their lesson. Maybe the Bakhtiari situation is correcting them a bit. But they can't afford to re-sign all their big guys, right? They can't have everybody being the top 3 paid whatever position, right? You guys have talked about that too. they need to sign some of these guys that are just football players that they can get cheap, that are playmakers. And with Dylan, I think one of the questions is going to be, first off, what kind of year does he have? Is he going to look like
Right.
the breakout player that is going to be worth it? If he is, yeah, you're going to have some competition signing him back. But is the danger going to be that he has a good enough year? He's a fan favorite, Quadzilla, the whole thing. They
Mr.
throw
Door
stupid
County.
amounts of money at him. How good is he going to have to be to warrant a big Aaron Jones type of contract? You can't keep both those guys.
I know. See, there's two key things there with A.J. Dillon is I think he has ties to Northeast Wisconsin because of his wife, and he really loves it here. Now, he shouldn't have to take less money because of that, but maybe they can put in more guaranteed money on a lower contract to get him to stay after the season is done. I think those are things like, I don't know if A.J. Dillon is the type of guy who's like Devontae Adams, who wants to be the highest paid guy at his position, and that's all he cares about, or whatever. Or like, Alexander and name 25 other guys, Dave Bakhtiari, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys who had to be the highest paid player at their positions just to say it for some unknown. Like, who gives a crap? Because guess what? Next week, somebody else is going to sign a new contract that's higher than you. So you're no longer the highest paid. So who gives a rat's ass? Help your team, take a good deal for your team, still maybe have as much guaranteed money, if not more. Like, that's another thing, like with the Jordan Love deal from a couple weeks back, where he took the guaranteed $13 million, and some people were giving a crap for it. And I was like, there's two things that are there. It helps both the Packers and it helped him. It got him money now, and it gives him money for the future, possibly. It guarantees that he's going to have $13 million. Like, how are you going to walk away from 13? Yeah. You know, he's going to make about less than 3 this year if he didn't do it. So getting the free $10 million he wouldn't have had this season. And then next year is also part of that with incentives and stuff on how the team does and how he does as an individual. But those are all things that, they use that to help the team. And if Jordan Love's doing that, A.J. Dillon seems a pretty cool guy. He might be able to do it. Aaron Jones keeps, restructuring his deal to make it. It wasn't his fault to make the numbers look good. And he was like the 6th highest paid running back when he got paid that contract at the time. It wasn't even like the high. Now his contract is high because they pushed it all to the 3rd year because they had to, because he had so much money synced into all those other guys who sucked that they had to push all the money into that 3rd year, which was a $20 million cap hit. So Aaron Jones had to redo his contract this last offseason to drop it way down. It took $5 million less than it was guaranteed to him because he's cool and he's not a dick. So, like, because everybody's like, well, he's not worth $20 million. Like, okay, well, he played for like $3 million the first year and the $7 million last year. Was he worth those two amounts of money? $10 million in 2 years? Yes. Was it his fault that the team frickin' shoved all the money into the 3rd year and 4th years of the contract to get under the contract or under the cap for all the other 2 years because they had Zadarius Smith taking up $16 million on the salary cap when he wasn't even on the goddamn team? Is that Aaron Jones' fault? No, but he took less money to stick around. And these are things that guys can do. Hopefully, give them guaranteed money and maybe a lower cap it. And hopefully these guys aren't like, hey, I don't need to be the highest paid guy when it's really not the highest paid guy because the contract goes so far. It's only like the first 3 years that matter and blah, blah, blah. And all. We don't know. Everybody who listens to this show probably knows that stuff. But I'm just saying it's going to be interesting. I hope A.J. Dillon has a great year. And I hope that we have to choose to pay him or not. But also, what's that's going to leave for Aaron Jones next year? Aaron Jones is only 28 years old, by the way. I still can't believe he's that young after 6 seasons. He was only 22 when they drafted him. So he's,
fits the profile.
Yeah, he's still around.
Under 23.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that later. But yeah,
let's. So about Dillon, what's interesting too is, like he's never been the featured guy. Like this is gonna be 4 years in. He threw his whole rookie contract, and he's still not gonna be the featured guy. So
in his first year, he got like no touches until the game against Tennessee, where he freaking destroyed them for 100-some yards and 2 touchdowns.
So I mean, what is his market value really? I mean, he doesn't have as much wear and tear because he hasn't gotten 400 carries a year as his rookie contract, like a lot of rookies do. But he also doesn't have the production. He doesn't have the top end speed. Like, I would think he wouldn't be that hard to sign back. And he's also, so that's one way to look at it. And I don't think he's going to gonna have a huge market. But he is in a position where if he wants to get paid, this is his one chance.
Yeah, it is.
You know, unless he signs. I mean, he could go for 2 years, try to blow up, but then still people are going to say you're too old after that. So this is like his one chance to try to get money. So I don't know. He's in a really weird spot. I feel kind of bad for him. But I think ultimately, just after seeing the kind of person he is, what he does, all the stuff he's done, how he's going to high schools in Door County, he's Mr. Door County, he's like got a key to the city of Sturgeon Bay, or I don't know, whatever the hell he all does. Anyway, I think he's going to want to stick around, and he'll probably give the Packers a good deal, and hopefully they'll, give him a fair amount of money, but not overpay him like they tend to do to a lot of their guys they try to re-sign, because I don't think they need to. Unless somebody else was so high on him coming out of college that's still holding that old evaluation and wants to grab him, maybe. But there's always teams that can do that. Maybe the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders will do it, right?
Well, Josh
they let
Jacobs is on.
Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we just figured it out on this show. The Raiders are going to offer A.J. Dillon super high money, and he's gone next year.
He's not fast enough for the Raiders. They'll never sign him.
Yeah. Well, just to add on to what I was saying before, I think the big question with him is he going to get enough of an opportunity to catch people's attention, right? I mean, he almost needs the attention to, I think, really get a fair shake in Green Bay for a real extension, right? If they decide to keep Jones in the future, go ahead with Aaron Jones, which I think could be a good move for the Packers, right? I mean, the guy has shown he can do it. He should be a featured back. So what is Dillon going to look for? Is he going to get the touches where, okay, he might love Northeast Wisconsin, he might love the Packers, but if he's not getting the carries, he's at a risk of getting replaced by someone if he doesn't get carries on his current team. So is he going to look to go somewhere else where he has an opportunity to be a starter, or at least a 1B type of back? If he gets more carries and looks good, are you going to have a team who really needs a back go for him? Is Green Bay really going to be in a position to try to keep Jones if they want to and keep him? And what would it take for Green Bay to look at A.J. Dillon and decide this is the guy of the future that we're going to cut Aaron Jones loose and turn it over to A.J. Dillon, right? I think they need to see a lot of consistent output from him this year, and I don't think he's going to get the opportunity unless Jones gets hurt or something happens. So I think it's a little murky.
Yeah, he's in a weird spot. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, the one thing is this, right? Like, because a lot of people said, "Oh, well, he only had 700 and some yards last year, whatever it was." Okay, fine, but he didn't get that many opportunities, and you have to think that this 2023 version of the Packers are going to be a much run heavier team. That the when the running plays are called, they're going to stay on as running plays. I mean, but how many times we go over it reviewing games last year where you should have just handed the ball to the guy and Aaron Rodgers threw it instead and pulled it, and then A.J. Dillon's out another carry and another touchdown. I mean, he could have easily had double-digit touchdowns last year, right? Yeah. And probably 900, maybe close to 1,000 yards. I mean, but he just didn't get the ops.
Now, do you have sound about A.J. Dillon? Because he's one of the people you're talking about today. We're talking about today,
no,
right?
We're just talking about him. I don't have sound.
Oh, you don't?
Here.
Oh, well, here's the thing. Well, because his running backs coach said some stuff about him, right? What are you doing? Just playing the sound instrumental? Okay.
Keep going.
I was looking at his stats, right? So people said he had a down year. People said A.J. Dillon had a down year last year compared to last year, right? Well, he's got his in 2021, he had 187 carries for 803 yards, which was a 4.3 yard average. Okay. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, and he had 34 catches for 313 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had over 1,000 total yards together. Okay. But his carries were 187, 34 catches, and 7 total touchdowns. Last year, he had 186 carries. So 1 less carry for 770 yards, which is 4.1 yards per carry, which is pretty close to 4.3 yards per carry. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, 28 catches, so his catches were down quite a bit, 206 yards receiving, but that's because Aaron Rodgers only threw it to him in dump-off situations like a bonehead, and 0 touchdowns receiving. So, what's the difference? I mean, the first year he had 1,100 yards total yards with 7 touchdowns. Last year he had 976 total yards with 7 touchdowns. Not only that, in 2021, he was the 3rd highest PFF grade at running back in the NFL. He was in the top 3, number 3, top 10 running back in the NFL according to PFF grade, and Aaron Jones is number 5. Last year, he was number 10 PFF grade running back in the NFL, and Aaron Jones was number 3. So we had the top 2 of the top 10 running backs in the last 2 years, yet they only had 7 touchdowns. Like AJ Dillon only had 7 touchdowns both years. It's opportunity. It's opportunity is the problem with AJ Dillon. It's not consistency. His running backs coach was talking about his consistency is bad. Well, when you go in the game and your quarterback's throwing the ball all the damn time, especially when you're in the red zone, and everybody seems to think like, oh, his numbers went way down last year. Okay, well, the Packers as an offense were way down last year. They were the absolute worst team in the red zone last year. And it didn't have much to do with the running backs. It had to do with the pass game and the ability to block people and move guys off the ball. They don't have tough guys who can move guys off the ball to even utilize A.J. Dillon at his best. But that's the key difference. It's opportunity mixed with consistency. It's very hard to be consistent when you're a running back and you're the second running back on a team that has 2 of the best running backs in the NFL who don't even use the guys enough. If this was any other team with these 2 running backs, they would have been used way more, and they would have been the dominant force of the team, especially with the questions at wide receiver and tight end that we had last season. And this season, they're going to have to rely on those 2 guys, number 1. Number 2, the defense is going to know about that, which is going to put more pressure on Jordan Love to try to utilize the 2 tight ends, all the receivers, the young receivers we have. Those guys are going to have to really step up because defenses are going to be focused on A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. So if anything, their numbers should be lower this year as far as like yards per carry and that sort of thing. They might have more carries. They might have more touchdowns this year, but their average yards per carry is going to be down because the defenses are going to be really, really focused on those 2 players in particular because they're the most dominant players we've had. They're the most consistent offensive weapons we've had over the last few years compared to what's on the team now. But I don't want to hear any more about A.J. Dillon's needs to be more consistent and pick up his play. Now, could he be more aggressive? Yes. What I do want to stop seeing is when he starts going like this, and then he decides to cut back. His cutback turn takes longer than my grandma with a wheelchair or with, like one of those walker things, right? Like it takes forever for him to go when he's going this way to turn to go this way. It's just stop it. Make a decision and go and then plow over dudes. That's your job. If I was his running backs coach, I would be like, A.J. Dillon, no cutbacks for you. No cutbacks for you. Run forward, find the hole. If the hole's not there, make the hole. You're going to get 4 yards per carry if you just run straight every play. Please do that. Please do that, A.J. Dillon. No more of this cutbacks. Use Aaron Jones for the cutbacks. Let him do his stuff. He's really good at doing that. A.J. Dillon would almost average 3 yards after contact if he would just run through guys.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of trying to what are you playing? What are you doing? Okay, go ahead. You really pissed me off with all this playing music sound while I'm trying to talk.
The sound was underneath you. It was
louder than me in my ears. Super loud. Stop it.
I want.
Stop it.
I'll play your song because it was a little background. I thought I'd give people.
We don't need it. It only goes 20 seconds long. You have to play it 75,000 times. We're good. We are good at talking. That's one thing Hafemans are good at. Blabbing and blabbing and blabbing. That's why we have a show, because we can blab and blab for hours and hours about nothing. Right? Rick can't even get a damn word in because I got to blab. And then when I'm not blabbing, you get to talk once in a while. I know I blab more than anybody, but I'm really good at it. I'm good at blabbing.
Anyway, AJ Dillon people are looking forward to AJ Dillon this year.
Before we move on from AJ Dillon, just something that I want to add to Ben's point. It was really frustrating. I know you guys were frustrated too, hearing LaFleur's comments about not knowing who was in the game. Right? These guys have different running styles. you as the coach, hopefully that'll get better, right? I mean, we speculated about the whole play calling, what's happening on the field the last few years. Hopefully going forward now, it'll be cleaner, crisper. People know what's going on, but they call plays that actually play to these guys' strengths, right? I mean, first off, that should help with the perceived productivity, some of the consistency. But I think some of those problems, Ben, weren't his actual statistical consistency, but it was perception, right? People see him getting taken down with the shoelace tackles. They see the quads. What's his whole shtick, right? Casual fan shtick is his quads are even bigger than Ben's. He should be a beast. Get this big guy in there, pound, slam, smash. Ironhead Hayward running. And instead, he's like trying to, quick step it, gets taken down by little ankle tackles.
Yeah, but a lot of these ankle tackles they're talking about are on cutback runs in the open field. He shouldn't even be in the open field. He should never be in the open field. He should be plowing through the mess.
Exactly. But I'm saying a lot of that is perception, right? That's what people see, and they're looking for a blame. They're looking for a scapegoat, right? They're looking for someone to blame because the offense sucks.
Well, I can tell you who it was to blame.
Yeah, who was at fault for a lot of this, but a lot of fans weren't going to go there. What are they going to blame? It's like, let's not, talk about the open passes that were missed, but it's the short runs that are getting stuffed, right? So I think a lot of it was perception. I think hopefully a lot of that will go away this year, but they need to set him up, let him have some, big old Madden loving, smashing, runs up the middle, take guys' heads off. He doesn't have to be that big bruiser back, right? He's not a Mike Allstott. He doesn't have to be that kind of runner, but play to his strengths, slashing dives up the middle. Do that. Not the cutbacks, not the big bellies. Use the guys to their strengths. See what he can do. Is he maybe a featured back? Find out. Is he a good number 2? Yeah, probably. It's a good change of pace for Jones. Yeah, if you use him right. So I think in that role, he's not going to get enough attention that someone's going to try to sign him for ridiculous amounts of money. Green Bay should be able to get him back relatively cheaply. Cool. It's a solid use of a number 2 pick if you get a good number 2 back that stays there for a long time. I don't.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think they have a good chance. I think he'll show more this year because they're going to run the ball more. And like I said, that'll be a big key. I think more of the runs that are called will be run, and then you'll have more sustained drives, which also lead to more opportunities, right? How many times the Packers have stall out drives last year because they, passed 3 times in a row and didn't get a first down or whatever. We went over all that stuff last season. So it's going to be a different year for A.J. Dillon. I don't understand the, Ben Sermons. This kind of came out because Ben Sermons had a comment how he and A.J. talked. It was kind of a disappointing year or not up to standards or whatever the hell it was. Like, I don't understand. When the guy only gets that many opportunities, how can you say that it wasn't up to his standards? It wasn't his kind of year. I don't get it.
He had 186 carries. I mean, what is he going to do? 4.1 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. That's better than most guys.
How many times were we shouting during games? Run the ball. Just run it. Just hand it off.
1,000 times.
Yeah.
How many of the runs were stupid? Like, it's
well, that's the other thing.
Second and 15, so let's pick up 2 yards.
The other thing is he was in the game running a lot of the times when the defense knew that they were going to run the ball. Like, of course, his average yards per carry is going to be lower than Aaron Jones. Now, Aaron Jones has got one of the highest average yards per carry in his career. He's like number 5 or number 3 or something, just after Jim Brown and Jamal Charles, right? As far as running backs go, and Nick Chubb or something. Those are the only guys who actually have a higher yards per carry during their career than Aaron Jones. So, I mean, to think he can get I don't know if people realize how good Aaron Jones is, because I think they compare his A.J. Dillon's stats to Aaron Jones too. Aaron Jones is a guy who's going to make you miss and then get extra yards. Like, that's his thing. A.J. Dillon is a guy who should run through you. That's his job. Run through you and get the tough yards. He's got a harder job than Aaron Jones sometimes. And the minute people realize that, the better. I don't think he's going to be I don't think he's going to be a feature back. I think he could be if you have a change of pace back behind him, right? You can start off with him and then have somebody else come in on third downs or whatever the crap like we used to do back in the day with Dorsey Levens and whoever. But A.J. Dillon's not even as good as Dorsey Levens was. That's just the truth. He doesn't have the agility that Dorsey had. What I would like to see with A.J. Dillon is have his feet stay off the ground for less amount of time. He has very heavy feet. So when he's running, like, when you're a running back, you want to try to hit the ground with your foot and keep your legs high so that you have, at least when you're in the open field, he's great for when you're in the middle because you want to keep your center of gravity low so you can, when you're going up against big guys, I can remember that one touchdown he had where he just ran right through a defensive tackle and, ran through 3 yards and got him into the end zone. That was awesome. On those type of plays, he's great. But when he gets in the open field, he needs to learn how to have light feet. He needs to learn how to be more like a ninja, and be like, and just take quick steps, because that's how he gets those ankle tackles in the open field. Because he's still running like he's got the heavy feet, where his legs are still on the ground for way too long, and then a guy comes through and trips him up. So he just has to learn the different styles based on where he is on the field and what's around him on the field. Okay, I don't know if I'm done.
JJ showed up. How you doing, JJ? Says it's cold here in Chippewa Falls tonight.
Whoa.
Just got back from the bar. Got back from the bar at 9 o'clock. All right, or a little after 9. Lee points out Dylan was solid. I think teams had him figured out somewhat. Crash whatever direction he was going to make him cut back. But he also says the blocking, yes, needs to get better. Yeah. And so
sometimes he didn't have to cut back though. Sometimes he just did.
It's true.
It was just like, don't.
Yeah. But part of and here's the other thing I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for AJ Dillon. I'm excited for the Packers offense. I'm excited for us. Is that, remember all of the times, all of the occurrences last season and in the last couple of years where the offensive lineman didn't even know what was it going to be handed off or was it going to be a pass. So they kind of stand up. They weren't drive blocking on running plays. They were just kind of like in that limbo, because if you go too far downfield and Aaron Rodgers goes to throw it and holds the ball too long, then you're ineligible downfield. So you couldn't, right? So are they going to be a little more committed to the run and actually have the linemen know what the hell is going to happen? That would be great.
I'd like to see less RPOs.
Yeah,
to be quite honest,
that'd be great. Rick, I know you want to see people drive block, right?
I want to see people be decisive, go make things happen.
Yeah,
RPOs have a place, but at least with the personnel that the Packers had the last couple of years, it should not be their bread and butter. So. The
other thing is, I don't think Jordan Love he doesn't have as quick arm as Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, his release was so freaking fast. It was nuts. Like those RPOs, like gone, the ball's gone. Jordan Love doesn't have that. I mean, he's gotten better compared to like when he was a rookie. He had that really long, elongated throw back when he was a rookie. Now it's gotten quicker over the last couple of years, but he's still no Aaron Rodgers. So RPOs are not going to work the same with Jordan Love. Play action is the key though. And that's still something where you can look aggressive if you play that, everybody flow, whatever crap, play action plays. Mm-hmm. Use a lot of those. But I don't think the RPOs should be as prevalent in this team's offense.
I can't imagine RPOs are going to be something that's going to help out a young team either, right? You don't have guys that are used to playing together. They don't have a lot of experience reading each other's minds. Trying to count on these young guys to pick up the blocks while watching to key on defensive end, whatever's happening. Keep it simple, set it up, and then work them in after you set them up. But I think it's just adding extra complexity that a young team isn't going to need at this point. I don't think it's a smart thing to do. I don't think they got the personnel for it right now. Keep it easy. Help your young quarterback succeed. Use the guys that you have. These guys don't need to be RPO backs coming out of the backfield. Okay, maybe Jones, but again, I don't think that's playing to Dillon's strength either.
And RPOs are for quick starters, and we already know Christian Watson's not a quick starter. Romeo Dobbs is not necessarily a quick starter. Now Jaden Reed might be.
Jaden Reed is.
Again, how many times we see the quick pass to Alan Lazard or whatever, just stupid. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying before.
Robert Tonyan.
Know the player on the field who, give them the right plays that play to their strengths. Like, this is coaching. These are things they got to do. You guys are leading me to Jordan Love, but before we go to Jordan Love, Rick, how'd you feel about Devontae Adams this week? Huh? He don't need nobody. He Devontae Adams. He make his own Devontae Adams. I like it. Your leading receiver, Devontae Adams.
I didn't like the signing. I didn't like them giving up so much of their future for one player when they needed a lot of help. And I do feel slightly bad for the guy to go to a team that probably isn't going to be very good to play with your buddy, and then they dump him for Jimmy G, which that's it's cheaper, but is it really more than a lateral move? Probably not. But grass is greener. Apparently, even if you're moving to Las Vegas, uh, I don't know. Hopefully, it's not too big of a distraction. Hopefully, the Raiders don't give in and trade him somewhere for peanuts. I think that'd be about the worst thing they could do is to let him be a distraction and then trade him and get basically nothing in return. But
Did they sell some jerseys last year at least?
oh yeah,
Okay, well, it worked out then.
I mean, if he's already complaining now and the season hasn't even started yet, get ready. Get ready for a long season of
Because he's a guy
Devontae
that,
whining.
Pouty,
by the
pouty,
time
pouty.
the last
Yeah.
couple of years in Green Bay, you know how he got. I mean,
One thing that could help though is that with Waller being gone, it's one fewer mouth to feed. So at least in the passing game, it's basically going to be him and Renfro, and he's a lot squeakier of a wheel than Renfro. So it might come down to, is it going to be passing or running, right? Are they going to keep Jacobs happy or keep Devontae happy?
now I will say this about it, and maybe Devontae Adams is a pretty sharp guy. I think he's a pretty smart guy. Now, is he full of himself and thinks he's better than he is and all? Yeah, 100%. But he's a pretty smart guy. Now, Devontae Adams does not really like running pass patterns over the middle. He doesn't. Okay, I think he was also resistant to that about the LaFleur system. Like a lot of those in cutters. I mean, all the big time receivers that put up huge numbers in this type of offensive system that the Packers were supposed to be running, all run those patterns all the time. Well, what did we see Devontae Adams run the last 2 years in Green Bay? It was all the Rodgers stuff, fading to the sideline, kind of start with a tight split and then kind of drift out. With the lofted over the shoulder sideline. I'll catch it and then I'll go out of bounds. Okay. Jimmy Garoppolo is not
Only
good.
throws in the middle of the field.
Yes, he's not good at throwing those over-the-top throws to the outside. Derek Carr had a little touch. Derek Carr could put a little air on the ball. Jimmy Garoppolo is like pretty much a straight line thrower, better over the middle, doesn't have the strongest arm, can't make all those throws to the outside. And so maybe Devontae Adams is looking at this going, damn, I got to go over the middle and get hit and catch balls like that when I'm at my age and I don't want to get hurt and all this sort of stuff. I've been just hanging out on the outside where I go out of bounds. I don't even have to get tackled most of the time.
He's done that pretty much all the time. You guys might remember it better than I do, but my recollection is even as a rookie, he was a sidelines guy. That's where he was making his catches that were catching people's attention. So,
Well, the biggest stat I can take is just when you look at he has a million touchdowns in his career, but he has like 3 touchdowns that are over 30 yards or whatever. It's like all of his touchdowns are like, short.
Yeah. And
So, I mean, the Raiders, I remember looking at the highlights. They had a couple huge freaking long touchdowns last year with the Raiders. So he's doing more than what you were just saying with the Raiders, Jason. But I think with Jimmy Garoppolo, I see Hunter Renfrow being the main guy. I mean, he's going to be your Julian Edelman. I mean, come on, he's going to be getting so many catches, it's nuts.
He's not afraid to go over the middle, and now with Waller being gone, it's going to open it up. They need a guy that's going to be running the drag routes.
And you got the rookie tight end who, is a solid all-around player all the way around, like good blocker, good receiver, good catcher, can run over guys. He's aggressive. I think those 2 guys are going to be very important to the team, and Devontae might take a little bit of a backseat compared to last year where Derek Carr was feeding his butt all of the season long.
Mm-hmm.
And he might, that's what I'm saying. I think if he's already whining now, wait until the season starts and Hunter Renfrow gets more targets than him, and then the whining is going to even go beyond that. Because he's been the main guy getting 150 targets a year with the Packers or more, for year after year after year. And now he's going to beat maybe Hunter Renfrow's going to get 150 targets and he's going to get like 97 or something. I don't know.
That's one of the things that really didn't make sense to me, aside from the draft capital that they invested, is there's only one ball to go around. Like, you bring in a guy who wants that much attention when you've already got, your featured receiver, you already got your all-star tight end and a running back that needs to touch the ball every chance he gets. So why did that makes sense. I guess how did he see that working? Was it really just like they're going to abandon all hope and go to the AR model of, yeah, I'll just look for you. I got you, bro. Go.
Maybe he just thought Derek Carr and him would kind of do the same thing and have, just take over the offense and whatever, but he didn't realize it wasn't going to be the same. Anyway, all right, that's enough on Devontae Adams. Jonathan's done with him. He says, Adams is no Don Hudson. Next. Okay. Big question here. We'll get back to Jordan Love in a second, but big question here is Joe Barry. Did anybody else watch Joe Barry's presser from this week? Did anybody watch it? You watched it?
I listened to it. I
that
love
was a goddamn waste of 30 minutes.
No.
Like
there was
Joe Barry. He says
really
the same
one.
thing over and over and over.
He does.
Okay, explain.
But there's
yourself.
a really good one. I can't remember who. I think it was either Ryan Wood or it was what's his face, Jason.
Well, they kept trying to get better answers out of him.
No, but they asked him. They were like, you got a lot of a lot of eight first round picks on your team and blah, defense and blah blah blah, and what are you gonna do here and there or whatever, and then and Joe Barry's like, well, I don't understand the question, or I can't remember exactly what he said, but he got all defensive right away.
Well, they asked him if there's any pressure, because of the expectations. Like what?
Well, I know, but the first time,
right?
But when Ryan Wood, I think, or somebody like that asked him the question, he just was like, I don't understand what you're getting at here. Blah, blah. He knew exactly what they're getting at. And then Jason, your guy, Jason Wilde, then said, when we talked to Brian Gutekunst, he said with all, he spent a lot of picks and money on that defense, and he's expecting, better results this season. Do you feel the pressure of that statement from Goody? And then he finally had to say, well, there's always pressure, blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is he's feeling the pressure. And he's feeling it more than anything. They also asked him, somebody, I don't know who it was, said, hey, was there ever a point in this offseason where you thought you might not be back? And he just said, no. Like, nothing, no, didn't elaborate, nothing, just no. So I don't know what Matt LaFleur says to him. I don't know what Gutekunst says to him. Yeah, well, I think there's a time that everybody in the whole, that's all people are talking about. So can he handle it? It's a very different, all I know is this. I remember when we, last preseason, right? When we were at training camp, Joe Barry was a superstar. People were talking about how great the defense is going to be. Oh, with all these guys, it's crazy. You watch Packer practice, and the offense couldn't do anything. Aaron Rodgers was dumping the ball into the ground all the time because his guys couldn't do anything. They couldn't protect them. They couldn't get open. The defense was smothering and destroying everything. Well, we didn't know at the time that the offensive line was crap and the receivers couldn't do anything, and Aaron Rodgers gave up on plays right away. We didn't know any of that stuff at that time. But he was a superstar. And then the season happened, and it was like, what the crap? And everybody played like garbage, and some weird things happened. And, Rasul didn't do as great in the slot. They had to, luckily Stokes got hurt. Then he was forced to play back outside, and then which brought in Keyshawn Nixon, who did a good job in the slot. Then they made a mistake of putting Savage there. Hold on thing. I say this. Joe Barry will not change unless Matt LaFleur changes him. So I don't even question Joe Barry anymore. Like your questions are, is Joe Barry going to get it right? Can Joe Barry do it? Is Joe Barry going to make things happen? He will not. Matt LaFleur needs to sit Joe Barry down and say, guess what? We need you to be more aggressive. We need our offense to have more cracks at the ball so that we can have more chances to score some points. Because we're probably going to turn the ball over a couple times too on offense. So we're going to need you to take more chances, be more aggressive, and that sort of thing. And that's all I could say. I don't think there's anything he can do. It's up to Matt LaFleur to get on him.
Well, his answers to a bunch of things were, he talked about their biggest problem was their inconsistency and, blah, blah, blah. And they play good at times and they play not good at times. And I'm like, there were plenty of times you weren't playing good the whole game. And most of it
was just
had to
back
do
and
with the approach. It's like you weren't, again, it's the same thing on the offense. You weren't taking players and playing them to their strengths. You weren't allowing them to do what they're good at. And then how many times did we see it again last year, Ben, where all the miscommunications in the secondary, guys not knowing who they're covering, Rasul Douglas covering two guys again on a bunch of plays or whatever. Like, how does that happen? How does that happen and then you keep your job? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And then he, it doesn't seem like his based on what they do, it doesn't seem like the defensive scheme is too complicated that you should be screwing crap up all the time, but they always do. So where's the accountability? Who the hell is in charge? And if you're the guy in charge, then let's figure it out. Then if guys are making mistakes, get those guys the hell out of there. If you don't know what you're calling, or you don't understand your personnel and what they're best at, then maybe you need to go. I don't know, but he's back and he says the same crap. Situational. Oh, we're situational. We're inconsistent. We just need to be more consistent. Well, you got to be better than that.
Let's not overthink it. How do you go out week in and week out and play so far back on 3rd and short where you're getting mocked in shows every week and you don't figure this out? Right? Let's not overcomplicate it.
I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere from Cheesehead TV to Andy Herman to everybody, to our little tiny show. Everybody knows the problem. The other thing I would say this, like someone like Jonathan is saying that half the reserve defenders are special teams guys now. I hate to say this. I don't want to be a jerk to Packer fans. But in 2010, when the Packers won the Super Bowl, they had 15 guys on IR, and I think 8 or 9 of them were defensive players. Nick Barnett, hurt, gone. A couple other guys hurt, gone. They had to find Howard Green off the scrap heap of the Jets to get him out there to try to play a little bit. Luckily, we found out that Desmond Bishop was really good. Thank God he came in and played great. Right? We had Frank Zombo or somebody, an outside linebacker, helping out with Clay Matthews. We had Charlie Pepra, who everybody says is nothing better than a special teamer, leading the team in tackles in the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter if a lot of the guys are reserves. If they're good, if they're solid tacklers and football players, that's all I care about. And that's what we have on these reserve guys. That's what Rudy Ford is. That's what Keyshawn Nixon is. That's what a lot of the safeties that they've signed over the last couple of days, or off season here. They're guys who are special teams guys, but a lot of times special teams guys are a little more aggressive. They might screw up every now and again. There's no doubt. And they don't a lot of times have the talent or maybe the smarts, but they make up for that because they're aggressive. And that's one thing this Packers defense, with all their first round picks and high paid guys, don't have, is those guys, the guys that were the starters, aren't aggressive. They're not aggressive enough to take it to the team, to the offense. And if you're being passive, I've said this for how many years now, when you're passive on defense, you're a step behind always. You're always a step behind. The key is to mess up the play. Be aggressive. You might be in the wrong spot, but you might be in the right spot to screw up a play. You might not make the tackle, but maybe because you were aggressive and screwed something up, the guy who was supposed to block you went, oh, crap, and he turned around. And then when he screwed up, the other guy next to him was like, wait a minute, you're supposed to block that guy. Oh, I better grab him. Well, then guess what? Now here comes somebody else around the corner who never got blocked because you messed up the play, because you had to take 2 guys out of the play because they were confused. And then here comes somebody around the corner who's also aggressive, makes a tackle and stops it. That's the kind of stuff that special teams guys can do. That's the kind of stuff the reserve guys can do, because when they get a chance to come in the game, they're not afraid. They go out and they play hard. Unless you're Redmond, of course. He sucked. We all know about him. He's terrible.
Yeah,
Thank God they got rid of him when he got him. But that was the difference between Chan and Sullivan and, guys like Savage, right? Chan and Sullivan was aggressive. He screwed up sometimes. He wasn't great at coverage. Sometimes he got beat in the slot. But he also made plays, got past breakups, had some interceptions, had a couple, he did a bunch of good stuff. But he was just a reserve guy. But we need those type of guys. We need those type of guys, and we're going to need those guys to play well this year. And I think that we're starting to see with the draft picks this year, almost all the defensive players they drafted this year are more aggressive players. They're guys who are willing to get in there and smack you up. Like Van Ness, he wants to smack you up. Those other 2 big guys in the D line, they want to smack you. Johnson, the safety, he used to play corner, but he's not afraid to smack you. All those guys are willing to hit and hit hard. And if those guys come in and play like that, along with Rudy Ford and Douglas and Nixon and all these other guys who want to prove it, they're on prove it because they're all prove it guys. Backups are prove it guys. Mm-hmm. So that's why they play harder. It's the guys who got paid who are rich and fat, sit on their butts and don't play as hard. And that's why I'm okay with them. So don't be upset. The Packers won the Super Bowl 2010 because they had 15 guys on IR, and all the guys that came in played their asses off because that was their shot to play and they won a damn Super Bowl because they had football players in the game. And that's what this team needs. They need all these young guys to not give a crap, go out there and make a play. If you screw up, you screw up. But more time, I'd say probably 7 out of 10 times, you're probably going to make a play. You're probably going to screw something up and make a play for this team to win. And only 3 times you're going to screw up. So if you got a 30% chance that you're only giving up points and the other 70% chance you're stopping them, but on offense, we're scoring 50% of the time, guess what? We win. I'll take that. Back to you.
I want to pose this to anybody, and this has driven me nuts for a while now. With all the resources invested in the defense, if you have a defense that you've put in all this money, all this draft capital, supposedly all this talent, how in the hell do you take all of that and play like you're scared? Like how do you not take it to the other team? Like, I can see if you got a bunch of scrubs or guys that you think, you piece this together because this was where your investment was. You got a high-priced quarterback. You got all this money spent over elsewhere. And so we got all these guys that we just kind of pulled together. Okay, they're not as talented. All right. But you supposedly have this incredibly talented defense, and then you play like that. It blows my mind. I don't understand it. Basically, the Packers say they have all this talent and all these great people, and their drafting and their money investment would reflect they believe that. And then they take that and they play like they're scared. It makes me crazy. It makes me crazy. So, whatever. They have to... And Joe Barry, I don't think, gets it. And they point out how slow... He even brought it up in his press conference. How, sometimes then at halftime you make adjustments. Rick, I got a question for you. If you're playing football, let's play you're playing defense. You go out there, the other team runs down your throat or throws it all over you, scores a touchdown, just chews you up. All right. You get back in there, happens again. You're not stopping them. Do you just keep doing the same thing, or do you wait till halftime? I mean, do you keep doing the same thing, wait till halftime before you regroup and evaluate and then make an adjustment? Or can't you make an adjustment right there before the next series? You should have enough depth of your defensive playbook that you don't only run the same damn plays of getting your ass kicked on, right? I mean, you can change. You don't have to wait till halftime to change. What the hell? I don't get it. Drives me nuts.
You have coordinators. You have a whole staff that when your offense is on the field can be talking and doing these things, right? It's not high school. It's not middle school. It's not elementary school where you got one coach trying to do everything and you got a 5-minute quarter to figure it out, right? These guys should have, like you say, a whole playbook of these things, right? You can move personnel around. You can change it up, make adjustments. You don't have to redraw your entire game plan. But even if they need to talk about it and share their feelings and whatever, you have time. Really, how much with commercial breaks, stoppages of play, everything else, how much time do you have on a typical offensive series, right? Unless you go 3 and out. But, right, there's plenty of opportunity to make subtle changes. Even just play calling, even if you don't change your base defense or your alignment or your personnel, right? You can, like you say, there are things you can do to go to that. And I don't know. It's a mystery that in the NFL, top tier, top level of sports and a winning franchise like the Packers, how do you take the spine out of your defense, right? What are they, like you say, what are they afraid of? Why are you playing so passive? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of, making a mistake or getting beat? Do you think your genius RAS score drafting strategy has your super athletes that just can't get beat deep? Like, it doesn't add up. You seemingly draft these guys that are the top physical specimens, and you don't let them do things, right? It's confounding. It doesn't make any sense. I'm hoping that as we see some other changes taking place with personnel, things on field, that some of that changes, right? Get the football players. You're not playing Madden where you look for the guys that have, the 91 ratings. You got guys that can actually play, that can make real-time adjustments, put themselves in a position to succeed, play with a good head on their shoulders. Let those defensive guys do that, right? You got someone with a nose for the ball. Put them out there. Let them do their thing. Let them play tight. What works best for them, right? You can't have everybody playing the Eric Stokes defense at corner where you run fast and just hope that they throw the ball and hit you with it. Like
he can
I don't know.
attack what's in front of him. He can attack that's why him playing off makes sense because he can run forward fast. So if he sees it in front of him and can attack it, great. It's when he has to turn around that it gets bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. You're 100% right. Jonathan's in here with a couple comments. I want to catch up here. He's wanting to not change the subject, but he is changing the subject. So don't leave with that, Jonathan. That's BS. You know that. Come on. He said, "What do you guys think about Monty Williams, head coach for the Bucks?" I say, hell yeah. I say, give me a good coach who gives a crap and aggressive, and the players can bond with, and is going to make not just adjustments when needed, like Budenholzer wouldn't, but also play all the players and use his bench. Like, again, that was the whole downfall of this particular season. So I would love Monty Williams. He's an awesome dude, be a great coach. But there's a bunch of guys out there that could be good coaches for the Bucks.
I think it'd be funny if all these fired playoff coaches just like swap teams.
Well, that's
we
kinda
get the
how it
Suns
goes.
coach, the Suns get somebody else's coach,
yeah.
Budenholzer goes to another. You know what I mean? Because there's so many guys that got canned.
Yep.
Yeah.
The one coach we won't get is Darvin Ham because
No, unfortunately.
turn the Lakers around. All right. And then let's see here. And JJ also puts in interesting positions of competition, running Nichols, Goodson, Taylor, all at running back, and then also at safety. So, yeah, there's going to be some interesting things with the running backs. We already know Dylan Jones. And that'll be part of the thing, too. Like, who do they see that could be a running back of the future most? And that's why I think probably the rookie is going to have the best shot if they only keep 3. But, Taylor's a nice guy, and he's fine, but he's been around a while. So they probably go younger there if they...
Last year, they kept those guys on the practice squad. Like, they didn't even make the roster
Right.
and because they knew nobody else wanted them.
Yeah.
So they'll probably do that again and then just bring them up for 3 games and set them down again. And that's not surprising at all.
Unless one of them makes a splash on special teams,
Right.
we'll just be stack them away. And really, what are you going to bring them up for? To take more carries away from Dylan?
It's going to be like if they could have if I personally think those 2 guys Taylor and Goodson are going to be on the practice squad. Nichols might make the team just because he's a 5th-round pick. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you can have safeties who are better special teams players anyways than running backs, and we also have more question marks at safety, maybe some of these guys are, we don't want, some of the veterans are pretty good, but we also don't want to let like Anthony Johnson Jr. go or, possibly be picked up by somebody else, but put him on the practice squad, make sure he makes the active roster. Maybe we have more safeties and just have the 2 running backs again like last year. And those guys are the guys we play on special teams instead of the running backs because they're smaller, obviously, but they're better tacklers and they're usually a little bit quicker. So I don't know. That's two positions, especially safety. We don't know enough. We need to see these guys. We have no idea. I have no idea what any of these guys at safety are going to look like. Other than Rudy Ford, I think is good and Savage stinks. So I know.
Kelly Packard's here. How you doing? Good to see you. We had a new show open tonight, but we can't play it again because it makes Ben mad if we play too much. All right, so
still really good, but I don't want to hear it.
Ben, you had something for later in the show. Did we cover it already, or we still got to cover it?
No.
What is it?
You want to do it?
Well, yeah. And then we got to talk about Jordan Love. But
okay.
A little bit.
So I saw this thing on PFF. I listen to the PFF podcast a lot. Yesterday, I think it was, they talked about the top 25 players in the NFL under 25 years old. So I was thinking, man, we must have quite a few of those guys, right? Like, we got a bunch of young players that are good. Well, we actually don't have that many guys under 25 on the team. Like, A.J. Dillon is 25 right now. Jordan Love is 25. Devontae Wyatt's 25. Like, the only guy who's under 25 who actually is pretty good, Zach Tom is 24. But he's only had 1 year, and he's a backup, so he's not going to make this list.
I don't know what JJ says. He's in there. Competing against center, right guard, right tackle. He could be any of those spots.
Well, he should start all 3. Can we clone Zach Tom and just put him everywhere?
The entire offensive line is a competition.
Yeah, I know. Well, and then Eric Stokes is 24, but we all know what he is. He's whatever. And the other guy is Christian Watson is 24. And I want to ask you, do you think any Packers made this top 25 players under 25 years old in the NFL list?
Top 25 players in the whole league.
I'm going to tell you that 10 receivers made the list. Do you think that a Packer made this list when 10 receivers made the list?
No.
You would be correct. And I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me there's 10 receivers under the age of 25 who are better than Christian Watson?
Well,
so then
I've had more production.
Now just hold
stuff
on.
Like that.
No. It said best top 25 players under 25. I don't care about more production. I care about the best players.
I get that, but I'm saying a lot of people evaluate part of that with production. So like Garrett Wilson, because he came in and was rookie of the year and blah, 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 they would put him in there, but they wouldn't put Christian Watson there. I would disagree with that, but you know.
So anyways, I went on a giant freaking wormhole today of going through stats and all this other crap. So
good for you.
I'll make it short as I possibly can. You know me, I can't even do it very well. But here's the names and where they fell. The number 2 player, so it's 25. I'm just going to tell you the number where they showed up on this list. Number 2 was Justin Jefferson. Obviously, he's got huge production. There's no question about that, right? The number 4 player was Jamar Chase. Obviously, huge production his first year, amazing season. Last year, he got hurt, of course, because I drafted him in fantasy. Of course, he's going to got hurt last year because it's my curse. The number 9 player was CeeDee Lamb, who I looked up his stats. They're actually a little better than I thought they were because I thought he was like, really, CeeDee Lamb? But his stats are a little better, but they're not that great. But okay. Number 11 was Waddle from Miami, who was okay 2 years ago. And then last year, of course, had the breakout season because he had Hill on his team, taking up all the freaking, everybody's worried about Hill. So then he got to be able to make a bunch of plays.
Yeah.
14 was T. Higgins, who's been in the league for 3-4 years, but apparently he's still only 24. So they must have been really young.
Yep.
Anyways, and he's okay. I mean, I don't think I'd take Christian Watson over T. Higgins. Devontae Smith of the Eagles was number 16 on the list. I mean, okay. I would take Christian Watson over him. Amon-Ra St. Brown was number 17. He's a good, solid possession receiver, but he's not a game breaker. He's not a change. He's not a scorer. He's a drive continuer, but he's not putting points on the board. Number 19 was Garrett Wilson, who, how I feel about Garrett Wilson. I'm not a fan, and his stats aren't that great either. Number 20 was Drake London, who was pathetic. I don't know how he even made this list. Number 23 was Chris Olave. So those are the 10 receivers that made this list that Christian Watson didn't make. Now let's go over some more things real quick.
Okay.
Let's go over touchdown production. Let's do this. Okay. All 10 of these players, are you ready for this? In the receiving game alone, all 10 of them had either 109 targets or more in their best season. Every one of these guys, their best season was last season, except for Jamar Chase. His rookie season was better because he got hurt. So I took the stats from his best season, which was his rookie season, his first season. But every single one of these 10 players had 109 targets in the passing game or more. Some of them had up to 184. Justin Jefferson had 184 targets last year. CeeDee Lamb had 156 targets last year. How many targets do you think Christian Watson had last season?
156? Jesus. Christian Watson had like 65.
I was going to say 70-ish.
66. 66 targets in the passing game for Christian Watson. Pretty much half of what the average was of what a lot of these guys are like 136, 146, 147, 117, 119, 128, 117, 109, the 184, the 156. So I'm guessing roughly it was about twice 66, right?
He started off, I'll just point out, he started off the season 1 for 1 for targets and then went like 4 games without a target, without being injured. Just, heads up.
Well, he dropped the first pass thrown to him.
Because his quarterback's an asshole, but anyway, never mind.
Anyways, so...
Not anymore.
This goes back to the A.J. Dillon conversation of opportunity. What's the opportunity for this player? First of all, he had half the opportunity of the rest of these 10 guys. So take that into consideration, number 1. Number 2, out of these 10 guys, only one of them in their best season had more touchdowns than Christian Watson had last year. And that was Jamar Chase. The rest of them, CeeDee Lamb had 9 touchdowns last year. A couple guys had 8. A couple guys had 7. One had 6. And Garrett Wilson, London, and Olave all had 4. So when it comes to scoring, only one guy, Jamar Chase, had more touchdowns than Christian Watson on this list, even though they all had twice the opportunities to get touchdowns. So I did some other things. So I figured out percentage, okay, of touchdowns per target and percentage of touchdowns per touch, because Christian Watson also had 2 rushing touchdowns, as we all know, because he had 7 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns last season, as well as
that was cool.
41 catches for 611 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. Okay, so he had 9 total touchdowns on his 48 carries. So what I came out to was 18.75%. 18.75% of every time Christian Watson touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. 18.75%. That's an insane number. Then I took it to targets. I was like, okay, well, maybe it's, let's do targets. So 12.3% of his targets, so that's targets and touches in the running game, 12.3% of the time he scored a touchdown. And how do you win games, guys? Scoring points.
You gotta score
right?
points. Which Packers
Okay.
didn't do enough of last
So
year.
now let's take a look at everything else. There's one player who averaged a higher percentage of scoring touchdowns per touch than Christian Watson's touchdowns per target. Okay, you understand? And that was Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase averaged 14% touchdowns per touch his rookie season. But it was only a 9.6% touchdowns per target his rookie season. So his 14% is dwarfed by Christian Watson's 18.75% touchdowns per touch last year. Okay? And everybody else, let's hear some of these numbers. Touchdown per touch. Chris Olave, Drake London, 5.55%. Christian Watson, 18.75. Are you kidding me? That's 3 times. That's more than 3 times the amount. Almost 4 times the amount of times he's scoring touchdowns than all these other scrubs. Garrett Wilson, 4.6%. That is 4 times. He's 4 times the scoring machine of Garrett Wilson. Period. Justin Jefferson, the great Justin Jefferson, averaged 6.8% touchdown percentage per touch, only 4% per target. Christian Watson, 18.75% per touch, 12.3% per target. What does that tell you, guys? Christian Watson is the greatest player under 25 years old in the NFL. 18.75% of the time he touches the ball, he scores. And that's how you win games. And this season, we're going to see a lot more targets to Christian Watson and a hell of a lot more scoring by Christian Watson. And I, for one, am a super excited Packer fan to see that and have him shut all these jackasses who don't even put him on the top 25 when all these other guys are scrubs. Yeah, they had a bunch more targets. That's how they had the more stats. I mean, and even putting Drake London on here, that's the one that is the most pathetic.
That is kind of
That's
crazy.
the one that,
So,
that's like, are you serious?
some good
Come on.
comments. JJ says, wait until Love hits him in stride in the middle, which Rodgers never did. Going to be a stud wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, you saw it. You saw what he can do last year. And then Callie Packer says, so Ben, you're saying Watson should be big time. Yes, 100%.
I'm saying he is big time. He already
And
is.
then, assuming that Watson is not injury prone and last year was just unlucky, Watson will go crazy next season, says Wyatt. Yes, Christian Watson, look, he's just different. I mean, when he caught passes or even got the end around, I didn't think he was going to outrun everybody because I didn't think he was going that fast, but he was just going really fast. He's really fast, and he's big, and he's tall, and
he blocks well, too.
Yeah, and he blocks well, and he's a key. He is probably the most important player on the offense to making it go. Just like MVS kind of was, except he's way a step above MVS because of his deep speed, his ability to do different things, but he's got way more upside. Like, I don't know. I'm really excited because a lot of people are sleeping on the Packers. People are disrespecting with all the changeover and rebuild and all this sort of stuff. They don't understand how good Christian Watson is going to be and can be and showed he can be last year. I mean, I don't know. And then Jordan Love too, stepping in. Like, I just think the Packers are going to surprise people. We're all going to enjoy it because I think when it's all said and done, they're going to have a really good year. and these guys are going to do well. And if the defense can come around and, Joe Barry figures out what the hell he's supposed to do, I don't know, man. I know we went crazy doing the schedule prediction last week or whenever that was, but it might not be 16-1, but I think they got a good chance to win quite a few games.
It's not crazy. That's typical Hafeman optimism.
16-1. The only
Tim
guy who
will-
can stop us is Justin Herbert, who is my quarterback. The guy I said the Packers should trade everything they have to trade up and get him 3 years ago. I was correct because he is awesome. But now we have Jordan Love. We'll see what he does. Hey, Mo's here. Mo, just so you know, I'm going to say these. You might have missed these stats, Mo. I'm just going to say them again. Justin Jefferson had 184 targets last year, and he had 9 total touchdowns last season. And Christian Watson had 9 total touchdowns, and he had 66 targets. Just a heads up. So what that comes out to, also with the carries, 4 carries for Jefferson and 7 carries for Christian Watson. What that comes out to, Mo, is Justin Jefferson last year, for 4% of the time when he was targeted, he scored a touchdown. Christian Watson, 12.3% of the time he was targeted, he scored a touchdown, which means Christian Watson is, 3 times the player as Justin Jefferson is based on those stats. But then, take it a step further, Christian Watson, 18.75% of the time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown, where Justin Jefferson, only 6.8% of the time when he touched the ball, he scored touchdowns, which is also roughly 3 times the player. 3 times the player. Christian Watson is 3 times the player as Justin Jefferson. Just so you know.
Mo says ridiculous, narrow-minded stat mongering. Well, Viking Mo, we'll see.
Opportunity.
Christian Watson's going to show you. Yeah, they're going to show
When
you.
Christian Watson gets opportunity, he scores
He's a
points.
monster.
Justin Jefferson gets opportunity, no scoring points. And how do you win the games, Mo? Scoring points.
I'll tell you what, Jair Alexander could not stop Christian Watson by shoving him around a little bit. Christian Watson's too tough. Run right through that stuff. Only a couple of drops, Mo. How many drops did Justin Jefferson have? Should we look at that? No, probably not. We probably shouldn't. You won't like it. All right. Oh, Mo, bring up the injuries, all this sort of stuff. You're going to have nightmares about Christian Watson, Viking Mo. I'm sorry to say it. You are, though.
Hey, if I can butt in here, as someone who lives in Minnesota, do any Minnesota fans really want to bring up stats about winning games and then completely disappearing in the playoffs? Come on, pick your sport. That's really what you're going to go to? I guess you got no Lombardi trophies to hang your hat on, so you got to go for the regular season stats.
He finally got time to sit in this spot to join our show, so his kids are in bed and all that good stuff. So, Viking Mo, we're glad you're here. We're not going to give you too much of a hard time.
Thanks, Viking Mo. Hey, I bought a massage gun. I have it now. It feels great. It gets all my knots out.
Did you really get one?
Yeah,
you got a massage gun? Are you using the right areas or the wrong areas?
Well, sometimes the wrong areas, but those are the right areas too.
Okay. I will give credit. Rick sent us a thing. Viking Mo, you'll like this. Captain Kirk Cousins doing some nice things. I will say this. And then Brett Favre, one of our legendary quarterbacks, even douchier every time he opens his mouth and goes on and says stuff. So the Packers have these great quarterbacks who are douchebags. The more they talk and the older they get, they turn out to be douchier and douchier, even though they were great quarterbacks for us. I don't really like them. Captain Kirk, your best quarterback in Viking history, and he's a pretty good guy. So I don't know. I'd take him. I don't think he's the reason you lose in the playoffs. I'm just saying, even though people kind of give him that moniker. All right. We're going to talk about our next best quarterback here next, and that's Jordan Love. Jordan Love, Ben, tell me, I don't understand this. So I caught a little bit of this stuff, right? So Tom Clements is talking about Jordan Love. He came back. He's really like working with him. He's happy to see his improvement, all this sort of stuff. Chris Sims says how much he likes Jordan Love. And then he ranks him as number 31 in his Chris Sims top quarterbacks. So you're telling me there's only one team that has a worse quarterback than Jordan Love, according to Chris Sims, starting the season? I find that weird.
That's not true because if you look at his, if you look at it, he's got the rookies. He's got the 3 rookies that are probably going to start underneath him. Okay. He's got the 2 guys from Atlanta that it's going to start, and from Washington that are going to start behind him. So when it comes to starting quarterbacks, he's got them ranked like 27 or something like that. So it's just he's 31 on the total course. So he's saying there's backups on other teams that are better than him, basically, is what he's saying. Now, he's basing it on projection. I don't know. I don't know how good he's going to be. Now, if it was me, I'll probably do my quarterback rankings pretty soon. I'll have to get on that.
You better get on that. I want to see where you rank him.
I'll have him ranked higher than Aaron Rodgers. I'll tell you that. I know that for a fact.
But Aaron Rodgers
I almost had him ranked higher than
OTAs, and he's doing this.
I can guarantee also that Derek Carr won't be number 2 this year. Sorry, Rick. He fell down a little bit.
Oh, no.
It's all right. Yeah.
But I mean, he's no longer Raiders.
It's not silver and black.
Yeah. But Jimmy G will also not be higher than Jordan Love, I'm pretty sure.
I wouldn't bet very much on that either.
He might be higher than Aaron Rodgers, though.
Lee says Love will be.
I wouldn't do that.
Lee says Love will be top 18 by the end of the year at least.
I think he'll be maybe top 10.
I think that too. Let's just step back 1 second, okay? I don't know I didn't go over the whole NFL, all the quarterback situations, blah, blah, blah. I don't know all of it. But what other quarterbacks that are going to be starting this season have had 3 years with their team and the same offensive system and all that sort of stuff before they start a game? Like, there's not going to be a whole crap load of guys that are more well-versed and prepared than Jordan Love to start with this team that he's going to be starting with. So that gives him a big leg up in my mind. And he's got arm talent. He's improved his mechanics. They've all talked about it. He sees it faster. He recognizes it faster. He lets the ball go. Like, those are all things we've been wanting to see from our quarterback, and we didn't get to see from Aaron Rodgers because he wanted to make sure it was there before he let it go so many times. If it wasn't, one of his guys that he trusts. So I just think, come on. I think people are sleeping on him. They're sleeping on Watson. They're sleeping on the Packers. I'm not a huge believer in Matt LaFleur's like this great coach that won all these games and he's the reason they won. But I am a believer in what I saw last year from young players, and I think these guys are working hard, and I think they're going to advance, and I don't think the Packers are taking the Packers are according to Vegas, the Packers have the lowest odds to win the division. They're supposed to finish 4th in the freaking NFC North, below the Bears. Come on, Viking mode. Do you really think that the Bears are going to finish ahead of the Packers? Come on. Your Vikings aren't even going to finish ahead of the Packers. Let's be real.
Because we don't need Love to be good, right? Mo is asking in the chat, what if he's bad? Do we know? No, nobody knows. Does he have to be great? No. Does he just have to be not bad to give them a chance to compete in that division? Yes. Because he can be not bad. And they got guys who can make plays. He can be not bad and still have guys believe in him and believe in themselves and buy into a team mentality that they haven't been doing for years. He can be not bad and keep them in games because he might make things happen instead of just play it safe and throw the ball away. Right? Realistically, I think Green Bay fans are going to see more turnovers than they've seen in most recent years. Is it all going to be on him? No.
But not as many as they saw in the first Detroit game.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Aaron Rodgers had plenty of turnovers against
playing together.
Yeah,
right. And is he going to take more chances than Rodgers did? Almost certainly. Like, he's going to need to succeed. Are there going to be good things that happen? Hopefully. Are there going to be bad things that happen? Almost certainly. But if he can throw an interception and the guys still believe in him, and he rallies and doesn't just sulk and pout and look like this look of incredulous, like, how could I have done that? Or the Favre after, like, okay, he shakes it off, comes back, like, okay, guys, we got this. You can be mediocre and still have the support of your team. You can still be a leader and still stay competitive. He doesn't have to be good. He just has to not suck.
All that being said, I think he's going to be good. I think he has the talent and the skills. And the other thing I point to is, who else gets this chance in today's NFL to have that much practice, experience, training, familiarity with the offense that you're going to be running? on top of it, you have veteran presence at running back. You have some other old line guys that can. So I get the wide receivers are young. I get the tight ends are young. I get it.
But they're more talented. They're more explosive. That's the key thing. The Packers, Jordan Love will have running backs that he will use, which will help him. And he has playmakers at wide receiver and tight end who are faster and more explosive. They're more hit and miss. Like they might drop some balls, but they'll take it to the house way more than Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard ever did. I'll tell you that. Or Robert Tonyan and Big Dog. I'll tell you that much.
Christian and they'll get open to make easier throws for him. There'll be easier throws because they'll be more open than guys were for Aaron Rodgers because of the way they ran.
There were a lot of guys that were open for Aaron Rodgers. He just didn't throw it to him.
Fair enough. You're correct. Anyway, hey, Viking Mo just said the smartest thing I ever heard him say in the comments here, and I agree. Everybody thinks Fields is so great, but he can't pass. Exactly right. Justin Fields, I've been saying it forever, is a great athlete, but not a great quarterback. Bottom line.
It led to 3 wins for them.
Unless they decide to have him take off and run 10 to 15 times a game, which would be smart. That would help the Bears.
That'd be smart until Quay Walker knocks his head off or Lucas Van Ness smacks him upside the head a couple times. Then he won't be wanting to run too much.
But they're not going to do that, so the Bears are going to be terrible, and Justin Fields is not a good passer, 100%. So Viking Mo, you are correct. Good job. All right. Let's be everybody in the comments. Don't be too mean to Viking Mo. He loves Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith is a good dude. He might be slow and old.
I like Harrison Smith too.
Harrison Smith is pretty good. All right. So anyway, I don't know. I don't like this Cali Packer. What are you talking about here? Supposedly Packers are looking to sign Wentz or Tannehill. I mean, out of them, Ryan Tannehill, I would take 100%.
Isn't Ryan Tannehill still on the team? He's still on Tennessee, isn't he?
Well, maybe, but maybe they're trying to get him. Maybe they're trading David Bakhtiari for him. I don't know.
No, they're trading Dave Bakhtiari.
Are they trading? Is it done? Is it happening?
No, it needs to happen. June 2nd, they need to trade him. Right. I don't care where. Just get him off the team. He doesn't care anymore. He doesn't believe in the team. It's time. Yeah. Goodbye.
I'd say after those comments, too, like, I don't know how you come back from that. I know you said he had some BS, like, explanation to the team and stuff, but it's like, once you said all that stuff.
The other thing, Cali Packer, last week we talked about it extensively about and we both named him wrong.
We did.
Sean Clifford.
Yeah.
I called him Sean Collins. Jason called him Sean Miller. I don't know what the hell we were doing. But it's Sean Clifford is the guy. We apologize to you, Sean Clifford. But he's a guy who played a lot of football.
Yep.
And if Jordan Love gets hurt, our season's going to tank anyways. And even if he doesn't get hurt, our season might be tanky. Who knows? Like, I think we're going to be 60-1, but we could be just as much 1-16. Who knows? But what I'm saying is Sean Clifford is a solid, smart guy who played a lot of big-time football for Penn State. And he's kind of like a veteran. So he's smart. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I would rather have that than Tannehill, who's a failed project, who doesn't know how to lead teammates, and none of his teammates like him. Or Tannehill, who's a converted wide receiver.
Oh, that was Wentz.
Quarterback.
No, that was Wentz you're talking
about.
Oh,
what did I say?
You said Tannehill was a terrible guy who nobody likes.
No. Wentz is
okay,
terrible.
All right. Yeah, no.
Tannehill is a converted wide receiver who never amounted to anything until he went to Tennessee, and then he was pretty good, but
he was good against the Packers last year.
He's good against the Packers, right? But that's about it. And no. I mean, no.
It'll be expensive,
right? We don't have the money for it, so no. Just
that's
the other thing about wide receiver. They had a guy come in. We don't need any veteran receivers. Let's just let the young guys play and learn.
Yeah.
Let the quarterback and the young guys grow. Who gives a crap? We don't need any veteran receivers. We don't need any veteran tight ends. We don't need any veteran kicker. We don't need any veteran freaking backup quarterbacks. We're fine. Just the way it is. We don't need it. Out with the old, in with the new. This is just like The Last Jedi, which I hate.
You just said it before, right? Isn't that astounding? Out of the 25 under 25, 10 of the 25 were wide receivers. So young wide receivers are working pretty good for all these other teams.
That's where it's at.
It's time for the Packers to just do it, man. Like, these are the old guys. Okay, we don't need to recycle the old dudes and bring them in. That's fine. Randall Cobb's a nice guy. Wasn't all that productive, but was a good leader, all that sort of stuff. Great. But now it's time. Turn it over. Let these guys go. Because like we've said before, it takes too many opportunities away from the young guys. And opportunities are what they need for Christian Watson to make Mo have nightmares about Christian Watson, which is what we're going for in Viking Mo.
Well, Mo's gonna have nightmares about everything because the Vikings drafted a wide receiver who's like 110 pounds, soaking wet. I mean, all of our defensive ends, like our wide receivers, are bigger than his defensive ends. Our running backs are bigger than his defensive tackles. Now his wide receiver is so small, Matt LaFleur's son could cover him. I mean, come on.
This
Oh,
is
Matt
LaFleur's taller than him.
Hey, do you think it's any coincidence that they draft this little receiver, and then they unload Za'Darius before the little receiver can knock Za'Darius around in practice?
Oh, smart. Yeah. You don't want to bring that down. That would create a problem for Za'Darius.
What do you think about that trade, Mo? Za'Darius, the Vikings got like a piece of gum for him. They traded Za'Darius, a 6th-round pick and a 7th-round pick for 2 5th-round picks. That's like, what is that worth? That's like trading Za'Darius for like the last pick in the draft, like the 7th-round pick and the last pick in the draft. I think is what it actually comes out to being equal to.
Mo just wants to cut his losses. He's just glad he's gone. He says, which is
I know,
smart.
I know.
I would be too. We were too. Mo. We paid $11 million last year just to have him gone. So there you go.
Maybe when he gets to Cleveland, they'll tell him that C necklace is for Cleveland and not for captain.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Good cover. He will be good in the press conferences and the locker room interviews. He's always good at that. I don't know if he's that good at football anymore, but he's good at that stuff. So
No, there's no way, Mo.
what did
That
he
is
say?
bullshit.
Oh, calculates as a 4th rounder. Is that
You gave up a player, a 6th-round pick and a 7th-round pick, and got back 2 5th-round picks. There is no way that calculates to be worth a 4th-round pick. You got to remember, you gave up a 6th and a 7th. There's no way. There's no way. You got him for like a 7th-round pick is what you got him for. That's besides the point. What's Joe Burrow's new contract? I heard he signed a new contract today. Anybody know in the comments?
I didn't hear about it. They'll tell us.
I heard he got the extension.
Rick's
Which means
got it.
Justin Herbert's next.
Lee says Bach is an easy trade, so keep loading up on future picks. There'll be tons of tackles in next year. Viking Mo, do you want Dave Bakhtiari? You
Yeah,
can have him.
You can
He'll do better than Za'Darius did. At least he might get hurt and sit out a lot of games and stuff like that, but when he is in there, he at least plays pretty well. So
Actually,
and you guys
he
have struggled
doesn't.
to tackle for a long time.
He's
Well, he
pretty
doesn't
bad at it.
run block, but he pass blocks pretty. Or he pass
Right,
holds. Oh, here's a good Viking Mo. If you're hanging out here, let's get this Viking Mo. Now, if you had David Bakhtiari on your team and holding for your team, would it still bother you as a football official who despises holding? Would it still bother you, or would you be okay with it? Answer that question in the chat. I think you'll compromise your position because he's on your team. I mean, I'm just saying, that doesn't say anything about you. It's not bad. I just understand you want your team to win more than you care about the rules as an official. I get it, which is totally fine. And I applaud you for that. I would be the same way.
Hey, remember, you got to put his comments on the screen here because
I know.
half
What
the
does he
other
have?
nobody else is on Facebook but him. Not that one, the actual one to the answer to the question you asked him, you dingus.
Oh, what did he say?
No.
Oh. He
No!
well, it just moved on me.
You
It
skipped
moved
the
on me.
one. That was the answer. There.
Yes, it would
you.
bother you. Oh, but would you accept it?
But if you go
But
down to
I
the
might-
next one,
But
you
I might look the other way. Ah, there it is. Okay,
See,
that's good.
that's
See?
a classic official. Look the other way when it's a superstar player or your team. Yep, that's how Michael Jordan got all the calls.
I'm calling it now. David Bakhtiari to the Vikings. Send him
No,
over there.
he's going to the Jets.
We got those 2 5th-round picks we could get for him. The 2 5th-rounders you got for Za'Darius, send them our way. For Bakhtiari, you can have Bakhtiari.
No, Bakhtiari, we're going to get a 3rd rounder for him.
Packers love 5th-round picks. They're good at them. The 3rd-round picks, not so much. I'd take 2 5ths over 1/3.
Or we'll get the Jets' 2nd-round pick in 2025 for Bakhtiari. I'm calling it right now. He's getting traded to the Jets.
We've taken so much from the Jets, though. It's just...
Christian Darrisaw was one of the top 25 players under 25, apparently, along with
really?
Justin
Okay.
Jefferson. Actually, I have the list right here.
Who is that guy? He's a lineman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. What's the list here? Amon-Ra St. Brown is in there. Christian Darrisaw is in there. 3 Falcons. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, A.J.
Whoa.
Terrell.
I like the way
Kyle
JJ's
Pitts
thinking.
too. Like, what am I missing? It seems like
Well,
everybody's
he's
so high on
kinda-
Kyle Pitts.
He got a bunch of. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards right away on a crappy team. So I don't
Yeah.
know. You know,
But
Bach.
there's
I like the
nothing
way
more
JJ's
common.
thinking here. Bach and Savage in a package. Could we package them to the Vikings? Hey, your safety's old, Harrison Smith. You need a younger, faster safety.
Harrison
We
Smith.
have one for you. You can have Bakhtiari and Darnell Savage over to the Vikings.
The
Helps
fans would
pack-
love him. Vikings, Savage. It's a perfect fit.
and the
Yeah.
and it helps the Packers win more games. It's a great trade. Send
It
them
is a
over
great
there.
trade.
Bakhtiari, if you could, I like the way you think, JJ. Nice. Be efficient. We don't need to make 2 separate trades for those guys. Going back to Andy Herman, which we started the show with before we leave. Here
Whoa.
were 2 things
Andy
that stuck
Herman,
out to me. I didn't get to say this because you talked so goddamn long last time. All right, here's the thing I
talk
wanted
a
to
lot.
say. I know. Here's the thing I wanted to say about watching that whole Andy Herman thing. Mo doesn't want any more old, crappy Packer players. Well, Savage is not that old, so just have a crappy
Yeah.
one and an old
Yeah.
one. It's
Yeah.
fine. You're fine.
You have an old one and a crappy one, and you got them both covered.
So, but here's what stuck out to me. Number one, the Packers do, like, how many times have they given second contracts to guys, right? But generally they'll do that with their high picks.
High picks.
Whether they perform like great players or not, they'll
Yep.
offer their first round picks a crap load of money and sign them to a second contract.
Kenny Clark.
But they have a
Jenkins.
different approach when it comes to lower drafted players.
Yeah.
Micah Hyde was a very good player, but he was a 5th round pick. And they're like,
Aaron Jones is like one of the only ones they've done that with.
Yep. Same thing with Casey Hayward was the 2nd round, but again, they got in this thing. Tremont Williams, right? An undrafted guy. Played well for you. And had actually on the play where he, was the final touchdown of the 2014 NFC Championship game. He had damn good coverage, just a freaking perfect throw. What the hell else was he going to do?
Lucky pass by
And-
stinking Wilson.
And then you just moved on from so the Packers look ultimately. I'm just saying this for a long.
Yeah, but that would have been
time-
his 3rd contract with the team.
I know, but I'm just saying this. Like, for a long time, and hopefully Brian Gutekunst is changing this, because for a long time what it was, yeah, you're a good player, but we invested more in this guy with our evaluations and our draft capital and blah 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 blah. So we're signing this guy back, Nick Perry, But we're not signing Casey Hayward back. We're not signing Micah Hyde back. We're not even going to offer him a contract, by the way. Not even going to try. Just, go see what the market holds. So that's, and Tremont Williams. Was Tremont Williams, who was a really good player for you, and a great leader, and a great guy in the community, and just great all the way around, right? All the stuff. I mean, that one's going to burn my ass forever. Because he came back to your team like a few years later and was instantly your best cornerback, pretty much. Just a heads up. Like people like that, you just can't let go. You gotta put the value on them. And I think what we're seeing, and what I'm seeing this year from Brian Gutekunst is that's turning around. It's a different approach. We're considering the player. We're considering not just how much we invested. We're cutting ties with guys that, yes, we maybe spent a lot on them, but they're not working out. Get them out of here. Clinton Dix, Demarius Randall, name your other guy. Who else did they part with ways pretty quick with? Josh Jackson, they didn't like him. Okay. We're not messing around. We're not messing around. Couple of years, okay, you're out of here if you're not working out.
Do you think that their stupid draft and develop mentality plays into this though? Like, they draft these guys with the high RAS scores, the high natural ability, and they got to develop these guys. They don't have to have a strong football sense. They got raw talent that they need to refine. So that takes more time, right? I mean, I think that's all linked together, and it causes this tunnel vision, right? Like it's almost like they're committing to these guys for a long-term project, but it happens all the time. It's not taking a flyer on one guy. They take
Right.
these freak athletes, and they're just determined they're going to turn them into something.
And what it leads to is you're always waiting for 2 years before that guy becomes a superstar, which is why they have no guys on the top 25 players under 25 years old in the NFL, because all their guys that they have at that stage are in development until they're 25 or 24 or 25. Like Rashawn Gary, right? 2 years didn't do anything. Jordan Love, 3 years didn't do anything. But then they also draft guys like A.J. Dillon and Josiah DeGuara, who are solid players who can come in and play right away. What I would like to see, to be honest, I think this is a cool strategy that I just thought of today. It would be awesome, is for like 2 seasons, you draft potential, right? Like super athletic, crazy, awesome guys that you can build into something. And then right when they hit to where they're at the peak of their position, those next 2 drafts, you draft players who are ready to play now, who are a little bit older, who know what they're doing, and they join the team. And all of a sudden now your team is full of a bunch of players who are good and can play together. That would be a cool strategy that I would like to see moving forward, right? Like this year, a lot of the guys they took are developmental type players, the 2 tight ends, Van Ness. These guys are ready. The safety who used to play corner. These are guys who are ready, like maybe not this year to be awesome, but like next year they're going to be awesome, right? Or the year after that they're going to be awesome. And then next year or the year after that, maybe in the draft, instead of drafting the guys who are going to be awesome 2 years from now, draft the guys who are just really good, solid players now, like the Lions did, right? The Lions took running back, inside linebacker, safety, and tight end, who are all good players right now who are going to come in and help their team win, which is why I think the Lions are probably going to be pretty tough and they're going to be good. Like I don't think the Packers are going 16-1. They're probably going to lose to the Lions at least once. But whatever. What I'm saying is that's what the Lions did, right? Last year their draft was built for the future. I mean, they took Jameson Williams, and he was hurt. He didn't play all year hardly, right? And he's coming in now this year. He's still hurt a little bit, and then he's going to play after a while. But like they kind of built for the future, and now this draft was we're drafting guys who are going to play now, who can help a team in spots where we're weak at, and this team's going to be a full team now. And I'm hoping that that's what Goody does is next season or the year after that, it's going to be, hey, this is now the team. We have a couple holes. We're going to draft players who can plug in and play now to fill those holes at key roles, maybe not like key positions like inside, pass rusher and wide receiver and blah, blah, blah. So that's something I thought about today. Hopefully they do that. I think that'd be cool. Because what they've been doing in the past is they just keep drafting guys to develop, and then they're always in development. And they never have a full team. They always have guys waiting in the wings, but the team is never totally dominant, right? Like we get good enough, to win a couple games in the playoffs or one game in the playoffs, but then we have guys sitting on our bench who are going to be awesome, man. They're going to be awesome next year. Okay, well, it doesn't help you win any freaking games right now.
Well, they also have the shotgun approach for they need to plug a hole. So let's go sign free agent defensive ends and draft a defensive end. And then, okay, we want secondary. So, let's load up on corners and for like 2 or 3 years in a row. And, receivers, take mid-round receivers. Let's load up on them. And, okay, if you're one piece away, cool. Draft a bunch, see what sticks. But when you're trying to fill multiple holes, that's also short-sighted, right? Like you draft all these guys, like the Swiss Army knife offensive linemen. Great. Let's draft 4 of those every year. Cool. If you want to build depth one year, that's great. But you do that 3 years in a row and you got a whole crap load of mediocre linemen that can't fit in anywhere and no depth anywhere else.
So I had one thing that approach, like with them when they would make signings and then they would draft at the same position. To me, like I understand, okay, you want to give yourself more opportunities and hope somebody's going to work out. I get all that. But to me, if you trust your process and your evaluation and all that sort of stuff, like have a little more confidence in your choices. Like and if you're wrong, you're wrong. But damn it, and maybe the whole thing that Andy Herman talked about today, all these bad decisions on defensive backs, how they didn't work out and all that sort of stuff, maybe that made Goody, who witnessed all that, maybe it made him a little more apprehensive in those situations to be like, I got to cover my ass a little bit here. I got to get more guys in here, so one of them's going to be good, right? But it still leaves you in weird spots where you invest way too much in certain positions, and then you start, like you said, Ben, you're starting some guy you signed undrafted free agent. You end up starting him because you got nobody else for that spot.
Well, I think Goody has done a better job I mean, we saw what Ted Thompson really left the cupboard bare in the last couple of years there, where he was just he was taking guys like nobody wants this guy. Like, you know, I mean, the Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins draft was probably the worst draft I've ever seen. Like, that was terrible, terrible, terrible. And, you know, getting Kevin King instead of TJ Watt, and, you know, you can name there's so many, how many years in a row where Thompson just screwed us. And Goody has pretty much hit on a lot of them, but he spends too much time with the develop guys instead of taking guys ready to go. Now, last year, Quay Walker came in and played right away and did pretty good. But then you also have the Devontae Wyatt, who's 24 years old and couldn't get on the field. Now, I don't think Goody thought that was going to happen because he doesn't like taking 24-year-old guys in the first round. I think he thought he was going to be able to play right away and help the team. And for some reason, the defensive coaches wouldn't let him play. So, and now this year he has to play because we have nobody else. I mean, we don't have Dean Lowry. We don't have Jaron Reed anymore. They're both gone. So he's got to play. We got nobody else to play. So that's another thing. But I just think Goody's done a better job. I just hope that he, as the team gets better, he realizes that you can't always build for the future because then you're never going to be where you want to be. You're never going to win the Super Bowl if you're always building for next season. And that's something that he's done too much of. And it started with the Jordan Love draft. Actually, even the Rashawn Gary draft.
Yeah.
I mean, Jair was a good pick because he played him right away. But like, you know, but he also wasted a pick on Josh Jackson because he wasn't sure about Jair, is what I'm guessing. Why else would you take two corners right after each other? You could have had any number of guys instead of Josh Jackson who would have helped play right away if you thought Jair was good to go. So it makes no sense. But I just say, hopefully he will adjust in the future with that kind of stuff. The other thing I like too is, like, you know, JJ McQuaid's talking about Brian Cox, who's kind of a questionable attitude, and like he's saying, you know, he got kicked off 2 different teams, but he's a baller. He'll smack you. And that's something I like. This season's draft picks and some of the undrafted free agents they've signed, they're aggressive guys.
Yeah,
that is positive. That's a difference that we have not seen on the Packers in a while. We had too many passive guys. Even Quay Walker last year. Yeah, he got in a couple fights like a ding dong. He's got to calm that crap down. But at least he's out there tackling.
Yeah. Look, I just wanted to all this development talk made me think of that game we played. I can't remember which one was it. It made my brain hurt. Well, all the games made my brain hurt, but that one, which is always in development. What was it? There's a development phase.
Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition.
Yes. God, that's a long name. I would never remembered it. But yeah, that was one of the games that made my brain hurt. And there was a thing where you can't just always be in development phase. You got to switch it up. You got to do some other stuff.
That's
you
right.
Production. You got to have production phase. You got to have like all this other stuff. You can't be always planning for the future and be developing, even though Rick's a scientist. So there's that. And then lastly, which would close on this, unless Rick, well, I'll close on this and we'll go to Rick for final thoughts. The last thing, if you go and watch Andy Herman's thing from today, the absolute worst decision the Packers have made, which created all the problems, was drafting Clinton Dix.
Yeah.
It was the worst decision in Packer history because not only was he a terrible player that screwed up the NFC Championship game, which was the Packers' last best chance to make the playoffs, or make the Super Bowl and probably win the Super Bowl that year because they had a really good team.
Yeah.
And wouldn't they would have been against the Patriots that year, wouldn't they? Would have finally been the Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, I think. Anyway, if memory serves.
Yeah, I think so.
But
no,
was I wrong?
No. That was the one the Seahawks actually
That was
won.
the one the Seahawks won, not the one they lost to the Patriots?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm wrong. Never mind, I'm wrong. Anyway,
Tom Brady had like 10 years where he didn't win a Super Bowl. He won 3, then he had 10 years where he didn't win any, and then he won like 3 at the end there with the Patriots.
But so
right?
the point is this, whatever it is. Clinton Dix effed up so bad in that game. It was the worst. And he was the worst decision the Packers could have ever made in any draft in the history of all time. The best, I will say it, the best thing he ever did as a Packer, the best thing he ever did as a Packer, the only positive thing was do the Jelly Bean Challenge because he was pretty cool in that. Other than that, he was terrible and a waste of time. And finally, they traded him. But the chain reaction of events from making that move to think, well, we got our first round safety, all the decisions they made after that were just bad, and created this whole bad effect and snowball. So HaHa's the worst draft pick in the history of the Green Bay Packers. That's what I learned. Or reinforced. I already knew that, but I reinforced.
Derek
it.
Sherrod.
Nope, HaHa's still worse. Because Derek Sherrod,
Justin Harrell.
they didn't have the chain reaction that HaHa did because they didn't play. The
Tony
Packers,
Mandarich.
the problem is the Packers thought, HaHa, we're good here. So now we're going to pass in these other guys that were good and let other guys go away who are good and deplete our team and then rely on this piece of garbage to be our starting safety. No. And hopefully they're not replicating that same problem with Darnell Savage right now. So send him to the Vikings with David Bakhtiari. Get him out of here. See you later. That's all I got. Rick, what's your last thought for today?
I think Packer fans need to take their rearview mirrors, throw them in the trash. Going into the season, look forward. Enjoy this season. Enjoy all the what ifs, the possibilities, the suspense, anticipation, whatever else. Don't compare it to last year. Don't compare it to what could have been if they kept someone or not. Turn the page. Cut ties with those old guys. Mason was great. A lot of good memories. Rodgers, there were a lot of good memories, even, despite what happened at the end. Same thing with Bach, right? Those were good times. Is the key part there, right? It's done. It's the end of an era. Turn the page, move forward, don't look back. There's a lot of potential on this team. A lot of fun, hopefully fun games to watch in this team. Move forward. Focus on the positive. Don't live in the past. Go Pack, go. Ben is old. Green and gold.
Speaking of Ben is old, I got to do my last thing. I agree. I was going to just bring up a thing.
I do have to play your song.
We'll play it again.
Viking Mo's still on here.
He'll
Never go back and watch it, so we got to play it.
Okay, we'll play it again.
Viking Mo,
I just got to say one more thing. This reminds me. Rick's bringing up a key thing. Sometimes something's good and it's time to move on. I was back in college. I was in college for 8.5 years. But during those 8.5 years, I was in Singing Statesman for 6 of them, and I was in the Innocent Men for 3.5 of them. And in my last year in Innocent Men, I was 24 years old. Yeah. And we would go on tour, and we'd sing at high schools. And my last semester, I'm 24 years old, and we're singing at this high school, and after the performance, a high school girl comes up to me, and she's like, "Oh, my friend thinks you're cute." And that's when I realized I got to get the hell out of here. I'm 24 years old. I got like 17, 16-year-old little girls that are hitting on me.
There's
That's
no
not
way
good.
that anyone ever said that. My friend thinks you're cute.
It's true. It happened. Just like that one chick said, I was the hottest guy she ever saw. I could read her lips because Dad taught me how to read lips.
Rick already
Yes.
explained
Yeah,
that.
that was oddest, not hottest.
Hottest. Anyways, and Rick,
It's
yeah,
probably
Rick,
Spanish.
look,
Hottest.
Rick.
I
Eric
get
Gardner
it.
remembers he
we
was
all
there. He
live
was
at our
standing next
own
to me when the girl
particular
came up
reality.
to me. Mo was standing next to me when that chick came up to me.
Yeah,
So Mo remembers.
Mark Chimura was one of your favorite Packers too, right?
No, he was, but I didn't want to become that. So I was like, okay, it's time to end, and I had to end it. Yeah. And Mo was like, that's exactly. I was just like, you don't. Yeah, I told that girl, do you know how old I? Yeah, that's what happened. And Mo was standing next to me. He knows. Eric Gardner, he was next to me. Okay, so it happened, and I was like, okay, that's the end. I gotta go. This is the end. I gotta get out of here. I'm too old for this crap. I loved it. I love singing. I love performing. But it came down to the point where it's like I'm no longer. I can't. It's like being in a boy band. Like how many? You don't see 30-year-old guys in a boy band. It just looks weird.
Yes, you
right?
do. You see 60
Nowadays you do. Yes.
Right now they're like 50 years old and still in a
the
boy
audience,
band.
there's 45 and 50-year-old ladies in the audience because they were 12 and 13 back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get you.
I'm just saying.
down. Rick knows.
And it's time for a change for the Packers, and the fans need to embrace that change and get ready for that new era. And I'm excited for it. And yeah, let's hope it's a great. There you go.
All right.
Let's hear the new theme song.
Viking Mo, I know you want to go back and listen to the beginning of the show. So here's the new theme song. Viking Mo, you get to hear it right now. Here we go.
Welcome to the P.O.O. Show, hosted by Hafeman Bros. We're talking green and gold, and shouting, "Go Pack, go!"
have it. So that is the new theme song. There's
For
also
Hafeman,
a
bro.
little, yeah, Ben
Becker, outright
Ben and
opinion.
Brad. What is that? B&B Music Factory put that together for us. We appreciate that. And that's not your name.
No, I just took the classic and I turned it into heavy metal. I turned it into hard rock, baby.
Is it? I don't know if it's. We'll find out if YouTube can track it, can trace that or not.
It
as
can't
like a
because I changed the
copyright.
key. It's originally in the key of C. I made it the key of E.
Well, I knew that.
Plus, it's easier to play guitar
I
if it's in
knew
the key of E too. By the way, just heads up.
Okay. I didn't know that. I knew the other part though. Maybe not. Anyway, point is Rick got it and he likes it. So thanks to Brad Miller for helping make that possible, and thanks to Ben.
Yep.
And again, thanks to Jason Eckes for writing those lyrics. You guys have a good one. Be good. The only one Ben left out or cut out of those lyrics was Ben is old. I'll give you the intro and the outro one more time so you can see the video part I put together, and we'll catch you next week for Packer Outright Opinions. Have a good weekend, guys.